Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the October meeting of the Arkansas Fly Fishers. I hope this finds everybody healthy and safe. I want to tell you a little bit about things that are going on with the club before I introduce Casey Hughes, tonight's speaker. First, I'd like to tell you that we have October. In addition to October, we have November and December meetings coming up. In November, we're going to host Cody Griffin with Fin and Feather Fly Fishing, who's going to talk about all things streamers. And then in December, we're going to have virtual bingo. Now, December is normally our bingo month. Thanks to Kinley Money, we think we have a strategy to execute bingo virtually, and there'll be a lot more details to follow on that. This weekend, we hosted our first in-person casting coach program. This has been a months-long process, where we've been developing folks to provide casting coaching. We have a number of excellent casters who wanted experience, wanted some coaching and on how to teach. And so we had 10 of those folks working under Bob Cheatham and Tony Austin this weekend, and we're really excited about what that means for our ability to deliver casting training. We have tying clinics coming up, and the guys that work a lot with our tying program are really looking forward to that. We're going to have the opportunity to tie articulated streamers, Euro-style flies, nymphs, you name it, a mouse pattern, a lot of different kinds of patterns. We'll be putting that information out so that you can sign up for it, have the material shipped to you, and you can follow along virtually. We've ordered the material, it's just not here yet, but that's coming soon. We're working on our annual banquet. We're really excited. We've invited Pat Dorsey, who is a world-renowned fly fisherman out of Colorado, who's going to come here. And there's going to be a lot of great details, but thanks to David Garner for getting Pat lined up, and more details to follow on that. We're looking at a fall fly fishing fair in 2021. So you can expect next fall, we're going to have a fall fly fishing fair coupled with the film tour is what it looks like. So it's going to be a big event for the club, and hopefully we'll start to see the ability to kind of bring people back together. We've started a sponsorship program, and you're going to get an email about that, but we wanted to have a better way of recognizing our corporate sponsors and individual sponsors who really help make the club come together. And finally, I would recommend that you go ahead and renew your membership. 2021 memberships are available now, and it's more important than ever to kind of have the support of our members going forward. A lot of plans coming forward. We're really excited to have Casey Hughes from the Ozark Angler as our speaker tonight. He has an on-stream experience with AFF member Luke Ortiz, where he gives up a lot of these tips and tricks he has for wade fishing on the Little Red. So I think you're really going to enjoy that because it's a kind of exposure. If you don't know Casey, Casey's a fantastic fly fisherman, a fantastic guy, and quite frankly, those who know him as probably one of the best rowers in the state of Arkansas. So I think you're really going to enjoy your time with Casey and Luke tonight.
The Little Red River at Heber Springs is well known as our local trout water. The first 31 miles are controlled by the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, and each year more than 180,000 rainbows are stocked to the already spawning brown trout population. But for those without a boat, the most popular destination is the first mile below the dam at JFK Park, and the first quarter mile is our regulated catch and release zone. These waters are loaded with trout, but also under a lot of fishing pressure. It is here where we asked Ozark angler guide Casey Hughes to give us some tips to the angler on foot who wades. Club member Luke Ortiz came along to help us share the experience.
All right, I'm just putting on a little unweighted Guide's Choice pheasant tail, and then I'm going to drop a harvester midge off the back. I usually use stuff size 12 or 14 for the front fly, and then 16 or 18 for the back up here at the dam.
Are you going to use an indicator?
I am going to use an indicator, Luke. At the dam, water's a little bit clearer. It's a whole lot clearer actually than the rest of the river. So I'll use the stick-on, like the Pulsa or Lightning Strike indicators, just because they're a little more delicate, and I believe that the bigger ones up here kind of spook the fish. They don't like them as much. Also at the dam, I usually don't fish anything smaller than 4X, but up here I make an exception and I'll use 5 and 6. Again, just because it's so clear.
Is that fluorocarbon you're using?
It is. It is.
Do you see any difference fishing with fluorocarbon or the regular nylon tippet?
I think I do. I know people that don't use fluorocarbon, and I've fished with them and they seem to do just as well as I am, so it's kind of personal preference, I guess. I like fluorocarbon also just for nymphing, for the fact that it sinks and nylon floats. So
Casey, how do we approach the Little Red right below the dam?
easy, Luke. So we're gonna just start. I like to start at the top and then work my way back down to where I parked my car.
Mm-hmm.
That way on the stroll down, I can look at the water, see what the fish are doing and stuff. Usually I'll start anywhere where there's a little bit of a microcurrent or a tail out. So you got that shallow water coming on, and then there's that little deep pool. You see all of the fish rising there. So
I see some bubbles on the water. Is that a good sign of where the water is moving?
well, you can see the bubbles. See how those are kind of, that's in the slack water. And the moving water is where it's kind of clear.
Okay.
And so the two of those is kind of where you want to fish, because there's food there, there's oxygenated water, it's everything the little trout likes to eat. So we're going to walk up there, throw in, we'll start in the shallows and just make our way deeper and
Okay.
move on.
Okay. Casey, is there a formula you use for flies, or is there something that you like more than others?
I like to keep it simple. I like a guide's choice pheasant tail. I like a sow bug, a midge, and like a smaller size, your 16s, your 18s, olive woolly booger, and that'll get you going.
In the rig we're using, we have this looks like the guy's choice pheasant tail.
Yes, that would be, but it looks like that day I didn't have any pheasant tail and I used dubbing. But yes, and then there would be...
And about 1.5 feet maybe?
Yes.
Trail it?
Yes, and then we've got a harvester midge in a size 16.
And your indicator, I see you don't use a big indicator. Is there any reason for that?
No, up here where the water's clear, the big hard indicators aren't as stealthy as these, and so I use the stick-on just because I feel like it doesn't spook the fish as much up here. Lower river, you can get away with the bigger stuff, but here you want to go a little smaller.
And what are the fish we're going to catch? Are they browns, or are we catching the stocky rainbows? And I know for sure there's some big ones in here. Is that right?
Right. So up here is the best chance to get your grand slam. So every trout that they say is in the Little Red, this is where you're guaranteed to find them all if they're here. There's also in this pond around the dam, tons of hybrid striper. So you could be fishing with your 5-weight, a little woolly booger, and hook into a 15-pound hybrid.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's a neat place to fish if you don't have a boat and you have to hoof it. You can get it all right here in a relatively small area.
Well, let's go get them.
Let's do it. Yeah. But I like to fish on that side, and you just cast right into that current. Oh, damn it.
What's that? Is that a beaver?
Or a damn otter. Yeah, it's an otter. These suckers are super, super skittish. So you want to step, when you start up or walk up here, you want to step back, see where they are. You can see that there's a big one cruising. Figure out where you want to cast and get your whole game plan figured out, and then we walk up a little closer and cast. Because if we walked up there and did it all, it'd freak them out.
So I want to cast from, say, right there, and just
So wherever.
the water's not moving very much.
No, so what we probably want to do, you can see how the wind's blowing. See that feather, how it's kind of moving in the waves. So we're going to stand wherever you can get a good footing, cast towards the bank there, and that way that wind, they kind of push it. There's a little deep hole right there. It seems like they're feeding when it goes over that lip.
Okay.
So walk up, out, and it's going to be painfully slow, your drift. But I have faith in you.
Okay.
And then hold this, it's kind of raise your rod tip up. So a little bit to get a little movement, and then drop it and wait. All right, stop. All right, raise your rod tip up a little bit. There you go, got him.
I don't have to try to set the hook that hard, huh?
Yeah, but it's kind of hard when it's that far out. You have him?
Yeah. Yeah, I felt the strike.
They're kind of real selective in this still water. So one of the difficult things about fishing up by the dam is you can see all these fish are eating, but they've got the shade, this crystal clear water, so they can look up and they can take all the time they want to examine your fly. And if you don't have it sometimes right on, makes a tough day of fishing. That's why you always have to use these smaller patterns and finer tippet. Also has to be a little more stealthy. So let's get over here a little bit in the
faster water.
Oh, and a little bit more in the sun too.
Okay.
That way they can't stare right up at it.
Let me unravel this.
Also up at the dam, I use, besides the foam indicators, I'll use white ones instead of a pink or an orange or something, just to be a little more stealthy. Being in the sunlight allows us to kind of hide from the fish and allows them not to like study the fly as long. That way they'll just have to snatch it instead of sit there and bring all their buddies around and inspect every little aspect of it. It's just benefits us just a little bit. Had we brought a 3-weight bamboo rod and a little Griffith's gnat, I think it would have been a good time over there, because I don't know if you can see it, but there's midges just crawling all over the rocks coming off with the sun. Starting to get over the trees.
A little further out.
That's perfect. And just we'll start working our way down the mouth and give it just a little action every once in a while. Oh, there's one coming to look at her. All right, Luke, let's kind of move on just a little bit.
Okay.
Sometimes you can get zoned in seeing these little fish swimming around, and we'll throw to them when we can move to some other real estate and maybe fish for some other ones that are more willing.
Do you fish it when you're guiding on your boat, or you come up here?
I will. If I've got someone wants to do like a quick half day and catch a whole bunch of little fish, I like to go either Swinging Bridge, Charlie's Island, that area. And here in a couple of months, when it gets a little cooler, I like to fish Dripping, Ramsey, down there below 305. Of course, Mossy in that area is great, but usually Ritchie down to Lobo is my favorite stretch of the river. And that's where I'll usually take my guys.
What about cow shoals in the fall?
It's great fishing if there's no crowd. It's just on the weekends, usually it's real packed, especially in November when everyone's looking for the big browns.
So if you've got to wade in November, where would you go for browns?
I guess it either has to be Cow Shoals or Swinging Bridge would be your two best bets. If you had a boat, you could get to Mossy. That would be a great one to wade. And then Rainbow Island, it's got some good, believe it or not, browns during that time. So anywhere where there's gravel and a shoal, there's probably going to be some fish hanging around there. So lots of opportunity on this river. You don't have to just stick at one shoal. Just because it's not popular doesn't mean it's not fishable. But Swinging Bridge would be my go-to on that. All right, well, let's toss some here. Let's pad the stats and catch some of these hanging out in this little tail out.
Okay.
Then we'll do the pulls. But little bitty guy.
What was the midge?
No, so we were getting, I noticed that we kept dragging bottom in the slower water. Luke was having trouble catching bottom, and we needed a fly that was light enough to get through these little shallow drifts. So I took off the bead-headed pheasant tail and put on just a regular crackleback, which is a dry fly, but can also be an effective nymph, fished under an indicator, or stripped like a little woolly booger. That's a really versatile fly, and I should have mentioned earlier that one pattern, if you're going to fish up here by the dam, you carry with you in a couple of sizes, like 12, 14, 16, green, a cream colored, or just straight peacock. They always will catch fish. Swing it right here.
Was that the midge?
Yeah. Or he took the little bitty size 18 pheasant tail.
suspended or is it bouncing along the bottom?
I'm guessing it's suspended, but it's pretty close to the bottom with this shallow water here, since it's only about 1.5 feet deep. But if we wanted to bounce it on the bottom, I think right here we'd be fine. I like to fish up here. I want my flies, you know, just above the bottom where they're still feeding. So in the deeper water, you wanted a little more weight so it'll bounce. But you don't want it more than, you don't want it dragging where you're getting hung, but if you're not getting hung, you're not fishing.
Because the indicator really isn't suspending it much here, though, right?
No, the indicators is purely for me to see and for Luke. That dry fly in the front kind of works to keep it up. I find that using a lot of lake fishing tactics on this river are effective. So like blob flies and a lot of those British competition styles will work here if you modify them just a little bit. I have no problem with mop flies. I think they're awesome. Mop flies, chamois worms, squirmy wormies. We're out here to catch fish, so if they work, use them. Terrestrials won't come out until the afternoon when the day starts heating up. So anytime after lunch, I'll have people throw hoppers and other terrestrials like that. I could also use them. This would be a perfect place to use a hopper dropper this afternoon. Instead of an indicator, I would just have a hopper and then put that little pheasant tail or midge off the back of it, about 1.5 feet. It's good times can be had that way.
About an ant, a little black.
Can't go wrong with black ants or little black foam beetles. I probably should fish more ants than I do. Judging from when I'm cleaning out my boat, how many of them I find laying around in it, I should fish them a lot, but I always get suckered into throwing the bigger pink foam ant or beetles and stuff. Turk's tarantula works really well up here. Get ready, Luke.
Oh, he turned away, didn't he?
Here.
This is the time for the Hail Mary, isn't it?
Yep, you got it in?
Yep.
So let's just wade out, and you can see they're all lined up in that deep trough. You got the water pouring off. So
Pushing that water back,
yeah.
isn't it? You got
And
like
so they're just all lined up right in there feeding.
sort of a reverse current.
Yeah, it's weird because it went. You can kind of see how there's all.
You got water coming in.
Yeah, so we'll fish it just like any other tail out. It's just this time the water's going upstream. So let's go over here.
Fish it from the back or the front?
We're gonna start genuinely. Normally they'll sit right at the depth change. So we'll fish, just cast straight out and let it kind of just run along this little shelf, and we'll work it just back over here, then we'll work back up.
Okay.
And then we'll scoot on down a little more. And on that one, just every once in a while raise your rod tip and set it down to create a little bit of motion.
Yeah, there's two good.
Mm-hmm. Like they're like chasing off. We'll try this, and then we're gonna try a little woolly booger.
Do you have anything below the
I
hop?
do not on. So they do not want a hopper, it appears. Because with that many fish, if I would have thrown it in the middle, one of them would have at least came up and.
Maybe it's a little bit too
Yeah.
early for them.
Let's see if these little stalkers run from it too.
Maybe it was the full moon that kept the fishing slow, or the cameraman sloshing around. But we wanted to assure you that Casey Hughes does know where to find fish on the Little Red, and so we'll share a few photos from recent guide trips.
Well, I really enjoyed that, and I hope you did too. Speaking of the Little Red, our next segment's with Cody Griffin, who's next month's speaker. Last February, he gave us a class on how to tie an egg pattern, which is a super pattern for the Little Red, and I think you're going to enjoy this segment too.
So I'm going to go ahead and do an example here. So today we're going to be tying a beaded egg, and I have my McFlone pattern. What I'm going to do is that strip that you got, cut it in half, and we're going to double it over. And so I'm going to go ahead and get my thread started. I'm going to keep my thread right here in the middle of the hook. And I'm going to take my McFly foam here, about that much, and I'm going to tie it in. And we only need a couple wraps here, so I did one good wrap here, pull it up, pinch it in between my index finger and my thumb, come right back down, and then once I know I got 2 good wraps, 3 good wraps, right on top of each other, I'm going to go ahead and take it, and I'm going to turn it. Now, if you have, rough fingers, this material is going to get caught on that. It's going to get caught on the egg or the bead. Just part of that, the way this material is. Once you get it turned, you're going to go ahead and figure 8 this a few times, just like so. Just a couple times is all you need. And after that, I'm going to pull it up a little bit. I'm going to do a wrap in front, or right behind the bead, right in front of the material. And then once I do that, I'm going to do a couple wraps around, like this, like I would be if I was parachuting. Yeah, on the top part. And just kind of parachute that material around. This one to get caught there. There we go. All right. Once you did that, we tied it on twice, got 2 wraps, turned it, figure 8'd it, and then parachuted it. Once you get to that point, you can tape your whip finisher and whip finish behind that bead. I normally like to do 4 or 5. I'm going to go ahead and cut my thread. Having sharp scissors for this is important. So now that I got my material on, and you can see my tying point's pretty good. If you want, at this point, tap a little glue on there just to help it out. And then go ahead and take that material and pull that material up. What I do is take my scissors and cut it straight across. And that is all you have to do for an egg. You can shape it up a little bit. I got a little bit of, just shape it with your fingers kind of the way you want. And that is it.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate everybody being part of AFF in these times that are a little bit trying to keep everybody together. Stay healthy and safe, and please give a thought to renewing your 2021 membership. Good night.